Boyfriend number four, the last boyfriend. Well, the last Barbadian boyfriend. Barry. So this is 2006 from the last one, which was at the end of the 90s, like 97, 98. And he was a friend of a friend. So I'd visit this friend's house, and that's how we met because he was his roommate. Very fashion forward guy. He was breaking up with someone else who wasn't even here, who was in in another another Caribbean country. And he was very fashion forward, but I didn't really care about that. He had a great sense of humor. Again, I'm saying that that's a trend with me. And he was smart. He smoked a lot of weed, which wasn't my thing at all. But, people do them. So it went pretty quickly. And I didn't understand why at the time. Only later I understood that he had this MO of going from one relationship to the other because he had learned how to manipulate men into taking care of him financially by love bombing and having them form an emotional attachment to him. And so I was to be his next, I don't want to use the word victim, but no other words coming to mind. And I rented an apartment and he stayed with me. He wasn't working for a while. I had to pressure him to get a job because at this time I had left a job at the Hilton and was working at Ocean Park for much less, but it was something that I wanted to do. And I was paying a student loan, so I needed the help. Man, I was so stressed. I was so stressed because he didn't want to work. And so stressed that I broke out. My back broke out in pustules one day. Painful. It's crazy how the body responds to stress. And I mean, I eventually got the courage to end it. He cried. He was such a good actor, I think. He cried like there'd been a death, to the point where the breakup didn't happen at that time, but then eventually it had to happen because I just was not happy. And I mean, I trusted him, but afterwards I realized that he'd been unfaithful a couple of times. I trusted him to the point of leaving the house while a friend of his was arriving to meeting him and the friend, and just trusting, But no, that was an encounter. And it's funny, I don't know how people live like this, but sometime later, a mutual friend, actually the same guy he was living with at the time, invited us both. He told me that he'd invited him to come, but he didn't know that I was coming. And so when I arrived at the house and he saw me, he kind of like started to run. And I imagine that this has to do with a traumatic event that happened to him where he was unfaithful to, actually, now that I think about it, my second boyfriend was his at one point, and the abusive guy, remember? So there was a whole thing where this guy beat him up. And so probably because of that, he imagined that I might have a similar reaction. So, but then, no, it wasn't that. I think people are who they are, and there's no way to change who they are. You can only change yourself. So we had a civil conversation. I let him know though that we wouldn't be friends. One of the issues I had with this relationship is that his friends knew who he was, but nobody told me. And their excuse is that I would not have listened. But I think when enough people are saying the same thing, there tends to be some truth to it, and at least I would have been a bit more guarded. But we broke up, and the next day he was with someone else. So, and he's gone on to do great things for himself. He's completely changed his body, which is now like thirst worthy. Think of the body that you'd like to see, that gets your juices flowing, and that's him right now. So that was Barry. Again, a pseudonym. Okay, so don't go looking. And that was the last one. One thing I have to say is that there's been a lot of time between this last Barbadian boyfriend and then boyfriends that I've had overseas. And I think the time was valuable in helping me to discover myself, know who I am, and what I am unwilling to tolerate. I think that when you learn how to make good friends and they treat you a certain way, then as soon as someone doesn't treat you the way you're accustomed to, it's glaring evidence that this person shouldn't be in your life, right? So, but that's how it worked in Barbados in general. Friends of friends, that's how you meet people. Or there were clubs like Badu and the Boatyard that you'd go to on certain nights. There was the Coach House as well. That used to be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday sort of situation. And that's how you'd meet people. Now, all of that's gone away, and it's online platforms in general, you know? So that's it. That's the last Barbadian boyfriend, and that was in 2006. And that lasted maybe a year, if that long. So yeah, that's it, man. Thank you for listening. Thanks again for all the support, and we will talk again soon. I came outside for the light because where I was recording, the light was gone or going. Talk to you soon.